Yo, what's up, family? Before we start the video, please give a like, subscribe, and share it in everyone that you can. Just get out there a little bit more. With that being said, let's get right into the video. Boston Celtics star Jaylen Brown stepped up and led us to a playoff win in the absence of Jason Tatum, and I wanted to take a look. So let's get into the film. All right, how y'all doing? I hope y'all doing good. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not, make sure you take your shoes off before you come in the house. And Jaylen Brown had a phenomenal game in Game 2 versus the Orlando Magic, helping the Celtics take a 2-0 lead. He had 36 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 63% from the field, and created 13 points with his 5 assists. So he was responsible for 49 of the Celtics' 109 points in this game. And he played with so much poise. He played with so much presence and physicality. And even in the first quarter, well, at the end of the first quarter, when I thought he should have been played finishing role rather than like a primary ball handler role, he showed that in the fourth quarter and in clutch time that he can do that, and he can be really effective for this team in isolation situations, handling ball and pick and roll, and making great reads in the pick and roll. So just an all-around game for Jaylen Brown here. On the first play, we got a little bit of a two-man action between him and Porzingis. Porzingis sees that he has Carter Jr. on him, which the Celtics were picking on that matchup all game, and he says to Jaylen Brown, just stay right there, let me clear out for you so you can have some space. And I didn't really understand what this pick was for at first, because we already have the favorable matchup. KCP is a better perimeter defender than Carter Jr. Derek White running into this screen messes up the switch pocket here by the Orlando Magic. It makes both KCP and Carter Jr. just stand flat-footed. So basically, Derek White just runs interference and makes both of the defenders back up, so Jaylen Brown has room for a three, and he knocks it down. And even though Orlando is a tremendous defensive team, I feel like this matchup really suits Jaylen Brown, because with some of the teams, like in the OKC games where Jaylen Brown tends to struggle a little bit, it's against teams that help really heavily in the gaps, and he has to go against digs in the post, and he has to dribble through multiple defenders. He has to go east and west instead of just north and south. What Orlando do is, of course, they have good guard or yard defenders. They have good ISO defenders, but Jaylen Brown is a top 20 scorer in this league. So you playing him one-on-one with whoever the defender you think is a good defender, it doesn't really matter with Jaylen Brown a lot of times, because he's just that good. And Orlando doesn't bring help even on switches. They don't like to bring a lot of help, and they don't like to double team even if there's a switch. So here against Franz, a nice controlled drive by Jaylen Brown. There's a little stutter step there, and then he uses his off arm. He doesn't extend it, but he uses his off arm to get Franz on the side of him. And when you're on the side of Jaylen Brown, it's over. All right, so there was a lot of mismatch hunting by the Celtics, and rightfully so. We saw a lot of Carter Jr. on Jaylen Brown and on our creators. We saw when Goga Badasi came into the game, we treated him like a backup cornerback, like we're going after him this play. And one of the more underrated ways that the Celtics can get mismatches is by the opposing team getting mismatches on the defense side of the ball. So somehow Jaylen Brown got matched up with Corey Joseph. That's not a mismatch for us. It's just he's not usually checking him. He's matched up with Corey Joseph, right? And they tried to get the ball into the post to exploit this mismatch, which is Paolo on Derek White in the post. Good pass lane defense there by KP. And since that Jaylen Brown and Corey Joseph were at the top of the key together, right? And there's a turnover. That means that the first people back, if Jaylen Brown runs and sprints to the other side of the floor, the first people back is him and Corey Joseph. So now there's nobody to help Corey Joseph to switch or to scram switch if Jaylen Brown seals in transition really quickly, right? There's a couple of examples early on the season where there's a guard having Kristaps Porzingis switched out on the perimeter. If they shoot a deep three and they miss it, that means that guard is checking Kristaps Porzingis on the transition seal. So this is what happens here. Jaylen Brown takes advantage of this matchup and goes bully ball over Corey Joseph. All right, so we got a little screen and roll action between Al Horford and Derek White. A phenomenal screen set by Al Horford. And what KCP does, they usually are a switch heavy team, but what KCP does after the screen, he runs and tries to trail Derek White, which means a short roll. Al Horford is open. Jaylen Brown had a lot of possession where he was handling the ball for the majority of the shot clock. Him being able to get possession like this where he could stand in the corner and just get some easy looks was really pivotal in this game, I think. And of course, we got Jaylen Brown here. Like I said, he had 10 rebounds, really helping us out in that department. Good box out by Sam Hauser, clearing the way for that strong defensive rebound by Jaylen Brown. And this goes directly to the Magic's defensive game plan. Like, you've heard me talk about this in this video and in the previous videos and in the series preview, the only time they send help on drives is when you get to the paint. So a guy like Jaylen Brown, who specializes in one-on-one combat and scoring, right? Straight line drives is something that I've said that him and Tatum need to really take advantage of. He does one singular move. And look, Anthony Black is a good young defender. KCP is a good perimeter defender. John Isaac is one of the best defenders when he's healthy. It's just sometimes better offense beats good defense, and Jaylen Brown can do that more often than not. All right, so the Celtics go to one of their more popular setups, the angle pick and roll plus high ball screen setup. And this is what I mean by earlier when I said Jaylen Brown just brought a lot of physicality to this game. The Orlando Magic play really physical off the ball. So a guy like Kristaps Porzingis who struggled in the first quarter, the Celtics struggled to get him going in the first quarter. He was 0 for 4. And it's because the Celtics, who run a lot of actions to try to get switches and take advantage of smaller players, a lot of that stuff is screening, right? So that's Kristaps Porzingis being a screener in like an angle pick and roll. He's going to either pop or he's going to try to post up the smaller guy when he gets the switch. What the Orlando Magic were doing, they were making it really tough to even get into those screens. And if we did get the switch, they made every post entry pass hard, and they made it super hard for us to get deep post up positioning. And it took some adjusting for Kristaps Porzingis to get used to that physicality. And then in the second quarter, the Celtics got Kristaps going, and he got a lot of free throws in that quarter. With Jaylen Brown, there's no adjusting to the physicality. He brings it, and just look at how he's moving and creating his space with Orlando playing super physical off the ball. But again, we're getting into this set, the angle pick and roll and the high ball screen. So we have this angle pick and roll here. The main goal of this action is to get our screener switched onto the defender of our ball handler. So what we're trying to do is get Jaylen Brown, is to get Corey Joseph switched onto Jaylen Brown. So this is the first action. Now, in the event that this action doesn't work, the defense plays it well, we don't get the switch, or we get the switch and we just can't get it into the post, we have this high ball screen set up already, so we can get really quickly into another action. So this could either be a pass to Derek White. Of course, we get into the high ball screen. This could be a pick and pop by Porzingis, who's really prolific in that area, or it can be a roll. Or if this defender that's guarding Derek White is denying him super high, we can just pass the ball into the big and initiate some blind pick action, and then we can get into a dribble handoff under this denying defender. But no need for all that, as we get the switch to Corey Joseph, and just look how physical Corey Joseph is being off the ball. So he's just trying to make sure that Jaylen Brown doesn't get all the way into the paint. He's trying to make this post entry pass really tough. So he ends up fronting the post as they're fighting for position. So this means that we need another angle to get this post entry in. So Pritchard passes to the top of the key. Now Corey Joseph has switched his stance defensively. Jaylen Brown has proper positioning, and Derek White has the angle, so we get into the post. And this was kind of rare for the Orlando Magic. They don't usually send help on the switches. Jaylen Brown, having their point guard basically under the basket, draws Paolo Banchero into the paint, draws Wendell Carter Jr. into the paint. So he has 3 Orlando Magic players in the paint right now, and he kicks out to Jrue Holiday. Since Paolo Banchero was in the paint, now he has to close out a little bit recklessly. Jrue Holiday has a lane and he dunks the ball. And this is really important to me, man. KCP was involved in a play where Tatum got injured, and just like he's supposed to do in the pregame interviews, he was acting like, it wasn't that big of a deal. He was saying that his team is just going to keep playing physical. That's what he's supposed to say. This is a playoff series. We're not supposed to be friends. This is hard-nosed playoff basketball. And I think Jaylen Brown is a guy that really sets the tone. He's always the first guy up to defend Jason Tatum. And this is really important to me. This is him setting the tone, him shifting the energy, him setting a precedent that, hey, listen, man, y'all not going to be doing all this other shit. Let's play basketball. And if y'all not going to play basketball, we go get in your face. So I respect this from Jaylen Brown. All right, so I really like this play by the Boston Celtics and what it did for Jaylen Brown. It gave him supreme spacing with Franz Wagner one-on-one at the top of the key. So we already know that the Magic aren't a team that's going to be in the gaps, really help. They don't do a lot of man-held principles. The only time they're going to help on drives most of the times is when we get to the rim. But what this play does, it of course holds up the spacing quota for our drives, right? But it completely occupies all 4 other Magic defenders that's not Franz Wagner. So we got double pin down. So we got pin down on this side, Al Horford set 1 for Peyton Pritchard, and then we're gonna have one by Derek White, set 1 for Kristaps Porzingis. All right, so if we focus up top first, we got Al Horford trying to set this pin down on Corey Joseph, but again, the aggressiveness off the ball by the Orlando Magic, Corey Joseph is not allowing himself to be screened. He's top blocking Peyton Pritchard. So a thing that you can do as an offense to combat top blocking defense is to use a cover screen. So a cover screen is usually used, well, it's supposed to be used with a guy that's a stretch big. So when a guy is getting top locked, so if he's screening for a guy, he's getting top locked, that means he can't screen him anymore. So a cover screen is when the person that was supposed to get the screen turns into the screener because he's getting top locked. Al Horford tries to set a screen, Payton Pritchard getting top locked. So what does he do? He just stands in right there and he's going to set a flare screen for Al Horford so he can come out and pop. So the Celtics don't end up getting anything out of that one. So we go to the other side with Derek White and Kristaps Porzingis, right? He sets the pin down easily and Carter Jr. tries to fight over it. And Kristaps Porzingis is going to get an easy curl cut right there. But again, all four defenders, if you just look at all four defenders, nobody's looking at Jaylen Brown. Not a soul was looking at Jaylen Brown until it's too late. So he ends up getting directly past Franz Wagner, and he could have just passed the ball to Kristaps, but he ends up driving and getting fouled. All right, so here we are in the second half where Jaylen Brown really got things going for the Celtics at the beginning of the third quarter. He had two really big self-creation threes here against Wendell Carter Jr. Gets switched onto him again. The in and out, cross, step back into the three. And this is just a casual day at the office right there, to pull up three in Franz's face. And these are the type of sequences, especially in the playoffs, that we have grown accustomed to Jaylen Brown making here against Paolo Banchero. Another isolation possession. Well, Drew Holiday tries to set the screen. He slips it, and that hang dribble right there freezes Paolo's feet, right? And then the acceleration from a uber athletic guy in Jaylen Brown is just enough to get the bucket. And then on the defense side of the ball, we got Paolo setting a screen for Corey Joseph. Jaylen Brown is really ready for that. Pokes the ball loose, and he dunks it home. And like I said earlier, when Goga Badasi came into the game, we treated him like a backup cornerback. You're getting to play ran to your side, buddy. Jaylen Brown goes all the way back and try. Oh, Lord, brother. Hold on, cuz. Is that a drop? Has he dropped switch hands and then a fillet finish over Paolo Banchero? All right, so here we got some good decision making in the pick and roll by Jaylen Brown. And the Celtics are going to use some shake action to take advantage of the Magic defense. So what happens on this play is Luke Cornett is going to set this on-ball screen. And if Luke Cornett sets a phenomenal screen, the shake action becomes a lot more effective. So he sets a phenomenal screen on Franz Wagner, and he's going to roll super hard to the rim. So because the screen is so great, now Franz, who is checking Jaylen Brown, is now out of the play, right? So now this puts so much pressure on this tag man here, who is Anthony Black. He already has the responsibility in the corner guarding Payton Pritchard, but now he has to tag Luke Cornett as he's rolling so he doesn't just get an open layup. So the shake action here is when this guy in the corner lifts up to the wing while this guy's rolling. So this makes it super hard for this tag man to guard two people at one time. Now Payton Pritchard doesn't like lift as hard as the shake action is supposed to do, but he just steps up a couple of inches, and that is all that was needed to work. So it makes that tag man pick who he's gonna check. So if Payton Pritchard just stands right here and Luke rolls, he's able to step right here and step back to Payton Pritchard. But what Payton Pritchard does, he moves up a little bit as Anthony Black chooses the roller to tag. Payton Pritchard steps up a little bit, too late on the closeout, knocks it down. All right, so we see some more aggressive off-ball defense by Orlando Magic. We got Franz Wagner denying Jaylen Brown the ball, so he can't get the ball right here. So what do? You still find a way to be effective. He turns it to a screener, he slips, and now he's wide open. He forces two into the paint, kicks it out to Al Horford because Goga Badasi was focused on Jaylen Brown. He has to close out recklessly, feels the need to jump because he was behind. Al Horford drives, and a little two-man game gets us a layup. All right, so here the Celtics are again with the ankle pick and roll, high ball screen setup. They go to ankle pick and roll. Kristaps Porzingis pops it. He gets the switch, but a nice scram switch here by the Orlando Magic, so we don't end up getting the ball to Kristaps Porzingis. But the pass there to Al Horford could have initiated some blind pick action, but Jaylen Brown just elects to stand there. And then we get into the isolation. He calls for a pick for Al Horford, but he's like, just go, right? Jaylen Brown has earned the right, and he was playing really good up to this point and played a really phenomenal game, like I said earlier. The team knows that he can take Franz Wagner. Everybody knows that he can be a special tough shot maker, and Al Horford has seen this his whole career. So encouraging Jaylen Brown to do this, he drives and makes a tough bucket. And this is what Jaylen Brown is all about, man. Against the opposing team's best player, not running from no smoke. Got him isolated on the wing in the fourth quarter in the playoffs. One of the best tough shot makers in the NBA. He can come out and he can do it for us whenever we need him to against Paolo Banchero, sizing him up and touching the clouds with his jumper. And we got another clutch shot by Jaylen Brown, but this one was assisted on by Jrue Holiday. An amazing pass. So the Magic in the last 2 minutes, they changed their defensive approach a little bit. They just started sending two at the ball to try to force some turnovers. They did force some, but it was just too late. But what this does is Caleb Houston has a closeout to Jrue Holiday, doesn't chop his feet, gets blown by. And watch this. Jrue Holiday waited to the possible last second. Paulo thinks this ball is going up the entire time. He waits until his feet barely is off the ground, and he hits the ground. And with an amazing pass, Jaylen Brown catches it low and finishes good. But that is the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, subscribe, and share it in everyone that you can. Just shoot out there a little bit more. And I will see you guys in the next video. This is Nick. Peace.